The scholars, they say the people who talk the most know the least. The more people know, the more they appreciate the virtue of silence. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man samata naja." Whoever is silent is safe. Whoever is silent is safe. Man samata naja. And so the person needs knowledge, so you know what to say and what not to say, especially when it comes to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How often do we hear? It's a ridiculous thing. How often do we hear a person who knows that a major scholar has dealt with a nazila min nawazil da'wah, something very important in the da'wah, in the world, and has taken the time to warn against an individual who is spreading confusion by name, knowing the person, usually after a significant period of advice by that exact scholar or by scholars who knew that person and who were the teachers of that person. Advice that they refused and they persisted upon their misguidance. Then the scholars, they take from their precious time to speak against a person. And you'll find the most rudimentary and simple-minded layperson will say, "I know that there are issues," and then they'll mention a number of issues about so-and-so that make it be as that are as such that we shouldn't take knowledge from a person. The scholars have warned against a particular person. And then they'll say, there are a couple of issues. Is there anything else? I literally have heard people say statements that there's so-and-so, he says such and such. Such and such statement is a statement of kufrun akbar, of major kufr. The type of thing that makes you leave from Islam in and of itself, without saying that a person is outside of the fold of Islam, right? But that statement is enough to make a person leave from the fold of Islam. A person can make a statement of shirk akbar, of major shirk, and a person will be like, "Yeah, I know about that, but is there anything else?" Like, man, get lost. Get lost. When the scholars speak based upon knowledge, and people who don't know their wrist from their ankle want to second guess the scholars, it's a musibah, udhma. The great poet Al-Mutanabbi, rahimahullah ta'ala, who some consider the greatest poet of Islamic history, which is a heavy statement. Al-Mutanabbi, rahimahullah ta'ala, who lived in the 9th century. Al-Mutanabbi, he said, وَكَمْ مِنْ عَائِبٍ قَوْلًا صَحِيحًا وَآفَتُهُ مِنَ الْفَحْمِ السَّقِيمِ. How many people find fault with the true statement, but the real problem, their real problem is al-fahm al-saqim. And it's not that there was a problem with the statement itself, but they have a sick understanding. So knowledge is essential. Knowledge is essential where people want to speak about Allah's religion. If people want to talk about Allah's religion, they must have knowledge. They must know what they're talking about. Social media is a plague, it's a disease. How people use it to spread misinformation, to spread confusion, to speak about things that are beyond their depth, to second guess the scholars of Islam, to spread abatil, mukhalafat shar'iyah, things that are in opposition of the creed of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that make a person min al-firaq dana, and from the misguided sects that are clear violations of the usul of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And you find people defend people of falsehood and speak ill of the people of truth and speak out of turn and these sorts of things. And this is very widespread and commonplace. By way of these mediums of social media, by way of Facebook, by way of even Instagram. I don't know how you can use Instagram. You have to be really creative in one's stupidity. Not you, but one must be really creative with stupidity to use a platform for images, to make images that contain misguidance. Literally a typing something out and making the fonts look nice and so on and so forth, and making an image to share with other people and putting it on Instagram of a fabricated hadith or something that just felt wise. It just felt like a wise thing. A person was feeling themselves one day. They got a new abaya, they got a new thobe, and they was feeling religious. So they was feeling wisdom eking from their essence. So they wrote something out that was just pure foolishness, and they spread it. And they said, if you send this to 10 people, if you send this to 15 people, then such and such and such and such. And to the end of it. And people must know what they're talking about before they speak about Islam. Before people freestyle with the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just speak out the side of their necks. And plant themselves in the hellfire for lying upon Allah and lying upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They could have saved themselves from humiliation by way of turning to knowledge. By way of turning to knowledge.